The Reykjavik Global Forum is where women leaders from all sectors come together to discuss and share ideas and solutions on how to advance society and increase the number of women in leadership positions. Of special interest is the role of women leaders in responding to global challenges, including implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are a framework for peace and prosperity for the planet and for people. We now turn to keynote remarks by Erna Solberg, the Prime Minister of Norway and co-chair of the United Nations SDG Advocates, giving her perspective on how women leaders can build a more equitable future.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the middle of a pandemic that is reversing our progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. A pandemic that has hit women and girls especially hard. There is an alarming increase in women's poverty. Schools have been closed, and there is a risk that millions of girls will not complete their education. Early and unintended pregnancy is on the rise. The same is true for harmful practices such as child marriages. Acts of violence against women and girls have increased across the world. I am also deeply concerned that the leaders of some countries are taking advantage of the pandemic. It's being used as a pretext for violating human rights and shrinking the democratic space. The pandemic's impact on women have been evident in my own country as well. We see that unpaid care work at home is not evenly distributed between men and women. Women spend more time than their partners on household chores and take care of their children, no matter how much they work outside the home. The pandemic, with closing of schools and kindergartens, has strengthened this trend. In short, crises tend to reinforce traditional gender roles. So what actions can we take together to address the challenges created by the pandemic? In my role as co-chair of the Secretary General's group of SDG advocates, I give priority to the situation of women and girls. Gender equality is essential for a sustainable recovery. It is a key factor in promoting economic growth and is a goal in its own right. When we take our seat in the Security Council in January, the Women, Peace and Security agenda will be one of our main priorities. We must ensure that women take part in decision-making processes, that girls go back to school, that women and girls have access to adequate health care and services, including sexual and reproductive health, that their rights are respected, and that efforts to rebuild and stimulate the economy are also targeted towards women. Our experience is that it pays to invest in women's and girls' education and participation in the workforce. Women's participation in the labour market contributes more to Norway's prosperity than our petroleum revenue. We must ensure transparency and access to reliable information. And it's vital to protect and promote the independent media and civil society, including human rights defenders. Their voices must be heard. Their monitoring and reporting will help to hold governments accountable. And we must counter disinformation and propaganda. We must mobilize financing for development. We need increased domestic resource mobilization, and we'll have to stop illicit financial flows. In combating the pandemic, we need global solutions. We must mobilize resources to ensure access to treatment, diagnostics, and vaccines for everyone. We need to invest in stopping the pandemic in order to rebuild our economies. This is why Norway is co-chairing the ACT Accelerator Facilitation Council together with South Africa. The $34 billion needed for ACT Accelerator this year and next year is a small amount compared to the economic loss that COVID-19 has caused. We need governments to commit to this initiative with more than just words. The COVAX funding mechanisms for ensuring fair and equitable global access to vaccines is important in this context. Norway will continue to support efforts to develop an effective vaccine against the coronavirus. And finally, we must work together to combat climate change. Recovery efforts present a unique opportunity to steer the world onto a greener path. And let me end with a few reflections on the importance of leadership. A lot of attention has been focused on the fact that countries with women leaders have generally dealt better with the pandemic than other countries. I don't think we should draw hasty conclusions on the importance of women leaders in this situation. But I do believe that democratic countries where human rights are respected and where women are able to reach top positions in society are also the countries that are the best equipped to handle crises like COVID-19. One very important aspect of these countries is a high level of trust between the general population and the authorities. Transparency and accountability are also important factors for success. In Norway, the government have held nearly daily press conferences to inform the public and explain the reasons behind the measures we have introduced. We have highlighted the fact that we must all do our part for the common good. An approach based on democracy, gender equality and human rights is key to fighting COVID-19 and realizing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Together, we can and must build back better, greener and with greater equality, ensuring that no one is left behind. Thank you.